of those groups right now. I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves. I'll introduce myself first. Sean, will go to you, and then I'll let you hand off from there. I'm
Sure.
Jennifer Bleem. I'm the cybersecurity Sherpa, and I work with MSPs to help them unlock their sales genius, help them sell more cybersecurity, better profitability, and just learn how to sell. That is what I do all day long. Sean, let me pass this over to you.
Sure. Sean Lardo here. I'm the evangelist for the ConnectWise economy. I'm also the owner of the cat herding of PitchIT, which you'll understand if you look at all the contestants, they're like herding cats at some point. However, here to actually shed light on the contestant, one of our finalists. But before I do, I want to go to who the head coach is, and Callan Sapien. Callan?
Hey there, Callan Sapien. I was a long-time ConnectWise person, as a lot of people know, and I actually was the original writer of the rules and implementer of PitchIT. Sean's done an amazing job in stewarding the program, so I appreciated it. He's accomplished a lot of the things that I set out to, but I actually ended up jumping to one of the previous PitchIT winners as an advisor, and we exited to Sophos last year, and so coming back in to try and give my expertise there, background in strategy, business development, and product management and go-to-market.
Awesome. So Adam, you're up. Introduce yourself to us.
Adam Walter, president of Humanize IT. I get the lovely badge over here. I told Jennifer she could leave it up. It's going to be on my screen today. But I'm one of the lucky people who made into the PitchIT program and have been blessed with the advice and just this ride that we've been on. So
I love it. So if I ask a tough question and Adam hides behind my logo, that's his tell. Like he doesn't want to answer that one. So Callan, you'll have to answer if Adam hides from any of these questions. I doubt that that'll happen though.
Don't think it'll happen.
So PitchIT. These are you're an up and coming vendor in our space, and you're going to be presenting at PitchIT like a Shark Tank. Can we talk a little bit about nerves? Do you think you'll be nervous, or do you feel like you've got this on lock? And Adam, I'll direct that one to you.
There's always a little bit of nerves, but it's kind of like how you know you're about to do something fun. I was an All-American athlete in college, and all the way through my senior year, I always got nervous before I threw or competed. And I think with this, it's like I'm excited. It's interesting. If I didn't have any nerves, it'd be like it's just because it's mundane. It's just another thing to do. Like I don't have any nerves anymore when I go into like a sales meeting when somebody comes in, has me promote our software. Like I can do that and not even think about it. Versus when you're doing something new, something interesting, something exciting, there is that apprehension. There's that adrenaline rush. So, but also I got a bit of narcissism going on. I like the stage. I like talking to people. So there is that excitement there, just whether or not I'm going to say the right things and reach my audience in a way that they appreciate.
So one of the things that I talk to my clients about a lot is unique selling proposition, or value prop. That is also a pet peeve of mine inside of our industry, that we have a lot of vendors that they talk tech, but they don't necessarily say what's the problem that they solve. So Callan, let me pose this one to you. How much of your coaching, how much of your consulting did you spend tweaking or perfecting that value prop or that USP?
So that's actually where we've spent a lot of time. I will say I think it's self-evident as seen by the way that Adam has just kind of went straight through the process, right? It started with a lot of people and he's whittled down to the 3. So the value prop was right off the bat, and it's an area where it's extremely complex to solve, right? MSPs are lucky to have people like you out there. They've leaned on the PICAs and others to hold them accountable. Evolve as a group helps. SLI, they go through. But the reality is those are huge commitments for MSPs. So one of the things that we've wanted to do is work to differentiate the fact that Adam's framework combines technology, which we're all comfortable with, and a framework to be able to actually start to broker those conversations. And in doing so, I think the value proposition came out pretty well. And I think that we're in a really good position to be able to show the judges and the MSP community why this is not something that it's an optional, right? They're already investing in a lot of areas, but getting that value proposition down is key though, because you only have 5 minutes. Really, you want to be 4.5 minutes. And the value prop, I agree with you. At Build It, I taught a session on this of using Strategizer to get down to that value proposition canvas. We spend no time in our industry focusing on that, and it's terrible. And that's where Humanize comes in.
I have a question for you. I have to jump in on this because you said I'm not disagreeing, but I'm going to be devil's advocate here. When it comes down to, you said it's not about wanting, it's about why they need it, not wanting it. And the challenge of teaching people how to speak, for lack of a better term, English to English in the tech space, which is kind of what we're talking about sales enablement. How do you stress this? I've been talking to MSPs for years, and even though they say they want to grow, and Jennifer does this for a living every day, even though they say they want to sell and market and grow, they still fight changing over in this transformation to sales and a sales conversation. So how do you push that value for not only them to want to purchase and work with you, but also adoption? How do you make this work?
Yes. Can I answer that question?
Yes. It's your company. You probably should.
It's okay. I mean, you guys know way more about the stuff than I do. I'm just an idiot in a chair. The question we challenge people with is, and it's the one we hear the most, is like, why aren't everybody in this call has heard this phrase, why won't my client buy what I'm recommending?
Yep.
They're frustrated to the nines. They're sitting there and like, I know what they need. I'm sitting here with a good deal. The price is in the right point, but the client isn't buying. And, it all comes back to relatability. Do they actually care about what you're selling? And I'm sure, Jen, you can talk way more about this than I can. And please expand upon this. Like that relatability, like, yes, that may be a great solution, but today they don't care about the firewall because they're worried about their kids' test scores in the school. And how does that relate? And because the engineer is trying to solve this engineering problem over here, they're not solving the business problem that the client really cares about. And so they're missing, you got these engineers that are making dollars, they're making their operations more efficient, but the profits are dying because they're not speaking the language of their client. They're not relating with them. And that's what our software solves a problem, not through a 300-step process, not through a 3-year journey, but overnight, just because we're like, hey, just talk differently, use your assets to relate to your client and make things simple, and they'll buy.
Okay, so if you're just joining us, we are talking to one of the PitchIT finalists. We're chatting with Adam with Humanize. Okay, I should have asked, Humanize IT or Humanize It, or is it both?
It's both.
I like it.
So we actually have, we registered the term, USPTO. So the idea is like, you're supposed to humanize your approach to clients. Humanizing IT is what we wanted to start with, is because what I discovered in the corporate world was that we got so process driven. We were really great at pushing out servers, workstations, upgrading, applying patches. We got really, really good at it. And we stopped talking to people because we were so good at it. We didn't need to ask questions. The job just got done. And so we took the human element out of IT and exchanged it for efficiency. And when we did that, we stopped aligning. So in the corporate world, which is where I came from, we had these departments that were really efficient, really great and well operating oiled machines. Our tickets would make you weep because of how efficient they were. And it's great. That's the great thing of having one client. But then we stopped talking, and then we stopped solving problems. And so basically our budgets became, okay, so add 7% next year. And that's our new budget. And then what happened is we started taking level 1 techs and saying, hey, can you spend like an hour or two going out in the field with the clients, with the users? And then they came back with like 6 projects. And also we started getting all this recognition from teams that we hadn't talked to in decades almost. Because now it's like, oh, why are you still having that problem? We solved that back in 2015. Well, no one told us or no one educated us. Like, whoa, well, let's get that taken care of. And we started seeing this disconnect come back together. And all of a sudden, as an IT department, you saw people's spirits lift because they were engaged with what they were doing. They're engaged with the company. And then we saw all of our projects moving forward really fast as the PMs started picking us up, as the end users started getting really caring about what we were doing. Our security increased because people started buying into security and relating to it. I thought, why am I not bringing this to the small business world? And
so help me
where
understand.
this component came from.
Sorry. I thought you were done. So help me understand your value prop. What is your USP? I know you have a platform. You mentioned relatability. You mentioned communicating with the end user. Help me understand what it's a platform, but what exactly does it do?
It's a
Okay,
framework.
it's a framework. Okay.
And we want to make sure we make that relatable, because with no new hires, using your existing personnel, you can increase your project budgets tomorrow. Not in 6 months, not in 2 years, tomorrow, your next meeting. And we have the testimonials to prove this. You want to talk to an MSP about this? Tell me what size of MSP you are. I will get a referral from an MSP the same size. That'll show you that I have small couple-man shops getting $10,000, $20,000 a project of project revenue per client extra. No new hires, increase your project revenue today. That's our value prop.
So this is essentially a framework that you're teaching to them on how to have this conversation in a non-geeky, non-technical way.
Yep,
Correct.
supported by
We're not
technology.
telling you to change your processes. We're not challenging you to change your operations. We're just saying next time you go to your clients, talk to them using this tool, this framework. And we have podcasts, we have webinars, we have all sorts of educational videos to kind of help switch that conversation and continually educate. That's why we call ourselves a framework. We're not just giving you a tool and saying goodbye, read our wiki. We're saying, hey, let's go on this journey with you. We're going to treat you the same way we want you to treat your clients.
Awesome. Sean, I feel like I'm monopolizing, so I'll pause for a brief moment.
No, no, you're not. It's actually Adam is always monopolizing.
It's what I do. It's what I do.
But I think Callan wanted to say something out, and I don't know what you were about to say, Callan. So.
It's doing it in a way that's consumable by MSPs as well. We, as an industry, rely on technology to push us forward. We don't have a lot of time. Like, time is money, right? Like, if you're a World of Warcraft player back in the day, time is money, friend. But you sit and you only have a limited amount of time and resources. We can't get the talent. So the framework is actually supported by technology that we can consume using the information we already have, just turning it into things that are more valuable. And I think that's a key thing, because it allows the MSPs to become proactive immediately with their conversations. Adam and I were talking about yesterday, the fact that as an industry, and Jennifer, you can speak to this because you help MSPs take advantage of this, but we jump from IT problem to IT problem with the hopes that some new shift will come along that we can take advantage of in order to grow and survive. The pandemic, cybersecurity, email back in the 90s, network management, the cloud shift. Those are all individual pieces that we look through. Nice. You do look a little nervous, Sean. So the reality, though, is that eventually there'll be either nothing to shift through, or our value prop as an industry will get watered down so much by the individual things. So adopting this type of framework is what allows companies like Vanaheim, who are going up against, or AlertOps, who are going up against, to actually have their products sold. So their success and vendor success is reliant on us. So yeah, they might win, but they're going to win more by MSPs adopting us. So in the end, they probably need to hope that we win this competition, because I think we're going to be able to make it so that their conversations with the MSP to sell a pen test, who nobody knows what the fuck that is in the SMB, actually happen. I mean, if you go as an MSP and say, I need to do a pen test on your network to a small lawyer, how do you have that conversation? How do you have it without having an Adam Walter facilitating that with Humanize It? That's the problem. We have that. There are 5.7 million small businesses that need pen tests, but they're not happening now. Why? It's because we're not having the right conversations. Same with AlertOps. There's all this thing that we can do to make us more efficient, but it's not making us more money. It's not making us more resilient. And that's why I think Adam can walk away with this when he delivers this pitch very, very well.
Wow. So you're saying you're doubling down on Gene Rich yesterday saying that Vanaheim was winning. I just want to try to understand this.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of Babe Ruth that he pointed and said, this is where it's going.
But he said it so quietly. He's just like, and when we win, that will
yes,
be why.
that's
I
exactly
love it.
right.
With this
So
quiet confidence.
is it kind of like the chicken or the egg kind of concept here, right? Because I don't disagree, Callan, at all. There's sales and market. I look at businesses in this and all. There's two areas of opportunity: sales and marketing, and then there's also service delivery, right, or product, whatever it is, right. And so in the cases of the other two companies, they are products, right?
Yep.
Whereas Adams kind of brings everything together to be the outbound strategy for it, or the growth, or the sales enablement piece to actually tell people it exists and how to use it and how to grow the business.
We had an entire podcast on this a couple months ago called Sales versus Engineering. Should have had Jennifer on for that one. Maybe we'll do a part 2.
I love it. I always say if sales is doing their job, it's going to stress the operations team.
If engineer can be the best engineer, and I've seen this, we have hundreds of MSPs under us, right? You can be the best engineer on the planet and go out of business. You can have the best sales team on the planet and go out of business, but it'll just take longer. Because a salesperson knows how to sell. They'll keep bringing in cash. It's just your churn's going to be really high because your engineers can't deliver. And so, I'd love to hear Jen's thoughts on this. Like, hey, this is what happens first, sales or engineering?
So I have this theory that the reason a lot of MSPs are not growing quickly is that they know in their heart of hearts that if they execute well on marketing and if they learn how to sell and how to close legitimate clients, that their existing processes, their existing SOPs, their existing team will need to be restructured or even ripped and replaced. And that makes them uneasy because what they know is what's working now. And so they stay at, $1 million or $500,000 or $3 million. That tendency doesn't necessarily change. I think the larger MSPs have gotten past that. They're just like, well, we're just going to figure it out. We're good enough. I trust my engineering team. It may be painful for a quarter, maybe 2 quarters, but we'll figure it out. But the smaller MSPs or the less mature MSPs, I think they stay where they are because their engineering team or their service delivery teams are comfortable. So that's my theory.
Can I jump in on one thing too? This is you talk about engineers versus sales, right? How many times do you see the issue with, and how do you fix this problem? The disconnect between service delivery and sales of what they really can do. Because often you see the people pointing and saying the sales people sold the wrong stuff. But meanwhile, the sales people are like, I sold what you told me. And it's about scalability and it's about all these other things, right? But it comes back to a communication. So how does your product, how does your offering help in this, Adam, or does it not?
So how's it help in the communication?
Yeah. So I'm a rep. It's day one. You onboarded me. It was probably a shoddy onboarding, like most companies, right?
Oh, I don't do the onboarding. So
and you're like, but I just finished onboarding.
He's fantastic.
I just finished onboarding, right? And then what, right? And then I start selling. I get my first deal, and I'm not really quite sure. I know all the buzzwords. I know all the few lines I gotta say. I have my presentation deck, whatever. But when it comes down to it, there's questions that are asked. I need the answer right then and there. How do you address that? And how do you get it to be updated from service delivery to say what's possible? So I say the right things and to sell the right products.
So our software basically just distills back that know-it-all mentality. Like I'm walking in a room and I'm here to teach you. Stop doing that. You are here to align with the client. So you want that salesperson in the room. Don't worry about the engineer being in the room because the client's not going to ask highly technical questions. Mm-mm. They're going to ask questions like, hey, how are you going to support my students during the day? Oh, well, we have 1 hour SLA. You can do with your dog and pony there. They're going to ask questions of what makes you different. And our dashboard sitting in the background, listing out all the recommendations in an easy to use format, rather than a huge 67-part PowerPoint or that giant 3-ring binder that all of you bring into the stupid meeting. Throw that thing away, burn it, never bring it back unless a client asks you. You have this simple thing behind you that says, this is the journey we're going to take you on. If you follow our recommendations, we're going to take you on this journey and we're going to solve these problems. And it's on the account manager to say, by doing these things, we're going to get rid of that problem you have with students dropping during testing cycles because your internet connection sucks. We're going to make it so that your iPads immediately pop online because now your wireless is going to work. These are all problems you identified. And these are recommendations solving these problems. The engineers came up with elaborate solutions on the back. Sure, maybe they're going to do a site survey, and then they're going to put in new Unify connectors. They're going to do all this stuff in the background. The client doesn't care. The client wants to know, does this solve my problem, and how much is it going to cost? And our software distills all of that data you guys have built down to something that the client cares about so they can take action. They say, well, that's too expensive. Is there a better way to do this? Yeah, let's move things around so it's a little bit more affordable. Let's do a quick budget proposal for this project. Are you okay with it? Sign off, and now you're going. And so in less than an hour, you spent your time connecting with the client rather than teaching them about Azure or firewalls or Unify and why you're using Unify over Cisco and all the things your client doesn't care about. Instead, you're saying, hey, tell me about your problems. Tell me about you and I want to see how we can help.
I love that. I call that business implications or business impact, which is that's what the end users care about. Is I like if I'm a user, let's say I need a new roof, let's say worst case scenario, like it's dripping into my kitchen. I don't care what your process is. I don't care how you take the shingles off. I probably don't care what kind of shingles you put on. I care that the drip in my kitchen is going to go away and I can cook cookies for my family on Saturday. I don't care about your 73 step process because I'm going to assume that you know what you're doing as long as you can deliver the end result that I care about. So what I'm hearing a couple of things that I want to park on. I'm a big believer in collaboration and relationships. And so my collaboration spidey sense is tingling because I think there are, a couple hundred vendors in our channel that are having trouble with adoption. They are getting net new MSPs to buy their initial block of licenses or say, yes, I'm on board. I love your solution. Let me sell it. And then because there is a sales challenge in our industry, the MSPs can't sell said solution, ABC Co's software. And so I see Humanize It as a way to support that sell-through motion. So is that a direction that you're pursuing as you go beyond PitchIT in a couple of weeks?
It's funny.
Yeah, our goal is, and I think Cal and I talked about this yesterday, between our rants and our affirmations yesterday on our call. We talked about how we need to relate to the clients again. Do you remember back in the 90s when we actually solved business problems in IT? Today we just talk about like, how can I get to the cloud? How can I do? It's no longer a business problem. It's now like, how can I get the latest technology implemented? And humanizing the conversation, relating to your clients is the most important thing you can do. But it's easy for engineers to get stuck in process improvement because that's easy to do. That's something I can understand. I know if I go through this 300-step process, I'm going to save myself 7%. And instead of chasing profits and having conversations, I am now spending what were we talking about yesterday, Callan? Spending like $1,500, $2,000 a month learning how to be a little bit more efficient. And I've got a 3-year process to get into this entire like mindset. Rather than all you have to do is go and treat them like a human being. Treat your client like they're another business like you who's struggling, facing a recession, who's got the same problems with profitability and trying to figure out, looking at their P&L report saying, crap, how do I get here? And then be a solution provider that says, hey, you know what? If you do this, your people will be able to work from home easier. Oh, well, cool.
Yeah. And I think, Jennifer, you hit it. I ran channels, built the channels, helped ConnectWise build one of the several of the products. And we went from vendor to vendor and realized that, well, the content that they provide is important. It tells a story about the value proposition that they have. Every single person that uses that content is saying the same thing. There is no relation back to that individual side of the client that you know from your relationship with the client. It's just pitching the same thing. So MSPs aren't even differentiating. We're just commoditizing. And for the most part, the average MSP is saying, okay, what can I sell this at in order to win against my competition? Not what value am I bringing that allows me to maximize that dollar and be proud of the stack that I have? Because I'm just using the same content again and again. By us driving the conversations with Humanize IT, we're actually getting back to that value proposition. We're taking the well-earned knowledge that we have and relationships that we've built, justifying our existence in their stack, and then being able to sell more and solving the vendor's problem of adoption throughout there. So they're not just selling shelfware. So it's not just sitting out there. So they're not sitting at a very expensive market to come into, and we miss out on vendors that we could use in the industry.
And to reinforce Jennifer's analogy here, and to connect that with what Callan's saying, like, you've got this engineer saying, hey, I got this great new kitchen appliance I can sell you. And they're talking to you on the phone like, okay, so I've got a sale on this new GE stove, and it's going to really help you bake those cookies, and it's going to help you connect, blah, blah, blah. In the meantime, you're sitting in your kitchen and the rain is pouring down on your head.
Yes.
And the engineer is not solving this problem. If they knew the problem existed, the general contractor would be like, holy crap, let me get a roofer over there right now. And let's get some boards piped up. But the engineer isn't paying attention to those problems. The account manager isn't looking at you and saying, what is your problem you're facing today? And if they would be more curious, they don't need a 300-step process. They don't need anything crazy. They just need to ask questions. They need to be curious and relate and say, where are you today? And how can I get you to where you want to be tomorrow?
I love it. Okay, I want to rescue you. Unfortunately, you stepped in a landmine that I created, so I want to throw myself under the bus. There is a big brouhaha in the female side of the IT channel that men think all the women do is sit around and bake cookies. That is the analogy that I started. That is not, Adam did not create that. So I just want to go on record of saying I just use that as an illustration that, like, what I would care about is let's re-roof my roof and get rid of the dripping water so that I can, and the implication I picked was make cookies for my family.
I have no problem you baking cookies. I'll bake cookies with you.
I am a big cook in our family, so I'm all about the kitchen, man.
We've just debunked all the stereotypes of everything in one comment.
And I don't bake cookies except for at Christmas time. My husband is the chocolate chip cookie baker. He's won awards. So if the children want cookies, they go ask Dad. So I want cookies now. You want cookies now.
Kickoff winner right here.
All right. So I just wanted to make sure that you didn't lose the PitchIT event because you made a reference to women baking cookies. That was not you. That was me. So, okay. And of course, you're not going to lose.
You see this as I'm wearing a unicorn shirt on camera. And, just this weekend, I was telling my kids how I need to get them making some banana bread.
Adam made a good point, though, and it's something that I think we've gotten away from. We treat technology like it's not creative, right? Technology and engineers in particular, MSPs are using technology to solve problems in a creative way. And we get really excited about that. And we don't translate that well to the outcomes that we go through. And what Humanize does is it allows the engineer to do what they do best, get really creative at solving problems, and then translate that art and that creativity into something that somebody cares about. It puts it in the gallery where people are willing to spend the money on it because it's now something that they care about. And that's a really key thing, because we want those engineers to be able to do what they do, solve problems, find the best technology, look at a client's environment, but then we just want to be able to tell the client about it in a way that's going to motivate them to spend money. I mean, that's what we're able to enable. We're able to do that. It's pretty amazing. It's actually exciting. When we first had our first session, too many first, but Adam and I talked about, okay, how are we actually going to win against things people are excited about, like cybersecurity? How are we going to do that? Because we're a framework. People don't necessarily get excited about frameworks unless they're nerds like me around process. But it got me excited real quick because I also was a sales guy, and if I could have given this to MSPs when I was trying to explain to them why an MSP doesn't need to tell someone about the fact that the backs up 8 times a day with no network issues, and it replicates to 3 sites, and nobody cares unless it's part of the compliance checklist. Like filter that out to what actually matters, and that's what's going on here, and that's exciting. We as an industry should be realizing that it can be revolutionary for us.
It's an easy switch. It's a mentality switch. And Jennifer, I don't know how you teach people this concept, like that. It's not a matter of a bunch of catchphrases. It's a matter of just you got to switch how you approach things. You got to stop being the smartest person in the room and start being the most curious person in the room.
I love it. Yeah, curiosity solves so many challenges. So I love that. Yeah, I always use that phrase, stay curious. So, for those of you who are just joining us, we are chatting with Humanize IT, and they are claiming that they are going to walk away at the PitchIT event at IT Nation in about 2 weeks with the win. They are saying they are the hands down winner and that they will help they didn't use the word losers. They said they will help the second and third place people penetrate the market better, and they're super giving and they're going to be very supportive, but they're going to walk away with the win. So I'm going to ask you, the win comes with a fairly large check. It's Sean, it's $70,000, correct?
Correct. First place is 70,000, and apparently bragging rights too.
Well, we already have the bragging rights.
Like, it's already happened.
That's already happening. Everybody's
Alan made it look like, yeah, we're doing this now. This is live. We're bragging in advance. Yes, 70,000 award first place. We do have a $30,000 second place prize as well. And I'll tell you, when my talk yesterday with Vonahai and on Adam's show, they said that if they win this, they're doing a freemium penetration for all MSPs. So like they've sort of indirectly bribed every single person. Just saying. So how do you combat that, Adam? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, we are going to automate client engagement principles. So we have this dashboard that says, hey, here are the clients you have not been meeting with, and you really should do a lunch and learn with them. And it shows you your trend of engagement over time. So if you met with the CEO, you get a high score. If you met with the janitor, you get a low score. If you didn't meet with them at all, you get a 0 score. And so you can see who you're not engaging with over time. Our solution is going to go into ConnectWise, check your tickets and your activity with the client automatically, and paint a picture of how you're engaging with the client so that you can plan activities such as an SBR, TBR, or a lunch and learn at appropriate times and maximize their value. And so you'll see in the list an immediate check come up saying, hey, you haven't touched base with this client in 3 months. You need to do something engaging. And then your account manager will say, oh, well, I'm going to give him a phone call. Done. Now you've brought that engagement back up so that your clients will stop getting poached from you. It's all about being relatable. So we're going to bring that. Again, one of my core values is I'm lazy. I was a computer science major in college, and one of the core values of a programmer is laziness, hubris, and impatience, the great three. You don't know if you don't know those three, you got to look them up. Callan's smiling down, or he knows what I'm talking about. Is the laziness, impatience, hubris, and laziness is the ability to do something so well that you don't have to do it again, and to automate things that don't matter and keep the things that matter in front of you. And that's your laziness. And our 70,000 is going to go into the Invent partnership, which we're getting certified this week, hopefully. And we're going to evaluate and give you back your customer engagement back as a dashboard that shows you your trend over time. Now, I know that's not anything fancy like a free pen test or anything like that, but anytime I can tell you which client's at risk automatically, that's a win for your client manager, because that means they don't have to go through every single client and go, oh crap, where are we? Gathering up all the activities and seeing where they are. This is a dashboard we already have. We are simply going to use ConnectWise's massive data set to empower your account managers so they know who to meet with when.
Yeah, that's going to help behind give away more free. As I mentioned, you are going to get in a situation where you're going to be able to provide value to your customers as an MSP and know who you need to provide value to quickly so that you can grow your revenue using the stuff other people are going to provide. Pen test is extremely important, and it needs to be out there. Do you know how to talk about that today? And can you deliver those results? And do you know who in your ConnectWise environment you need to, from a client standpoint, actually have that conversation with? And how are you going to differentiate with your customers? So we'll enable everybody else with our winning. So that's why we should win, because we're the ones that are about the community.
So you said a word, and that you may have said it before, but I wrote down, it must have been 20 minutes ago, differentiation. So help me understand. Let's pretend like I'm the MSP. Obviously, I'm in a very competitive marketplace. Let's say I'm one of the more expensive MSPs. I'm doing this right. I'm pricing it profitably. Many of the other people in my community are not. How can I leverage the humanized framework that I have in my organization? How would I articulate that as a differentiator to a potential net new client?
Oh yeah, I love this question because one, if you want the nerdy business standards, like we take a top-down approach to IT so that you can look great to executives. Now, it does not mean much. Now, if I say, imagine you and your biggest competitor in town walk to the table. They come in with a stack of paper and they tell you, your client, your prospective client here, all about how Azure is going to help them be more stable, and they're going to be able to work from anywhere because of X, Y, and Z. That you've got 24/7 service, and you run FortiGate firewalls, and your competitor does a great job. They use all the great synergies and the catchphrases, and they get people going. Then you walk in the door, and you start with the question like, "So, tell me about your business. Tell me about what it is that you're struggling with right now. Tell me about your biggest sources of revenue and your biggest risks." And the client, okay, and so they talk
We're
about
having a business conversation now. This is new.
now you're talking like, tell me about yourself. And then say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take your biggest concerns and I'm going to align what we have with that. And now you've got two different people sitting at the table. One person who told you all the stuff that they're going to do for you. The other one that says, let me get to know you better so I can align our technology portfolio with your strategy. And by the way, here's our recommendation roadmap that we're going to share with you in a week. So from a sales perspective, you've got your discovery session immediately. And the discovery session is truly about the client, not about what assets they have, but about what their business is. And then the second session is, let me show you the roadmap that's going to solve those problems you're having and how we're going to get you to a situation where you are best in class. We have 10,000 solutions back here. I want to match up the 30 that are going to improve your business, and we are going to all move forward together. Those two people coming to the table, I can guarantee you which one's going to win the bid every time, unless you're stuck with some kind of low bid client that's going to only go with whoever the cheapest is. In that case, you don't want them anyways.
Yes.
You're pre-qualifying your own people just in that meeting, just by saying, tell me about your business. And if they say, tell me about your costs, it's like, I can't do that.
You made another point there too, that is kind of overlooked in the driving of the conversations. You are getting insights into renewal timelines, your touch points with the clients and everything else. So you're getting insights into the health of the clients and who are expensive because they're not going through renewals. And you get one more chance as an MSP to actually pitch them on a renewal, which makes it more profitable for you because it's easier to support those that have the right technologies. So getting those insights, because you're using what you already have with your assets and everything else, but it's being translated, is a huge win too. It immediately weaponizes your client history so that you can go to market better, especially as a mature MSP. As an immature MSP, it also is a framework that will allow you to mature yourself, not in 3 years, but in months.
And then when you're presenting on the back end, when you bring your proposal or you do your pen test and you bring in the result of findings, now you know exactly what to talk about because you understand what business outcomes this potential client is concerned about and wants to achieve and how you can help them achieve that with technology.
Yeah, and I think that's the big differentiator between us and other competing products out on the market. And there's some great ones out there. They solve different problems. Every one of us in this QBR, TBR market solve a different problem. Our thing is we solve the client communication problem. We're not going to make better spreadsheets and have operational efficiency. That's great. Go to C-level, talk to them. C-level is great at coaching. There's a number of other great coaches out there that will help you with your operational efficiency. Our goal is solely to help that humanized conversation happen, to simplify the conversation so that your existing employees look like VCIOs, not because we sent them to 3 years of training and got them an MBA and put them through like 600 meetings. We said simply change the conversation. Let your engineers do what they do in the back end invisibly, and then let the account manager come to the table and care for your client. And that's what we do. We put the client first so that you both can win.
So-
Can I jump in there for 1 second?
Yeah.
So, well, to say you put the client first, I think every product that we're talking about puts the client first. So that's not a differentiator, right? I mean, everybody builds a product with the end user in mind.
That is not true.
Really?
That's not
Who's
true.
the end user?
That's exactly
as a product owner, that a lot of engineers do not build that. A lot of product people don't build that. There's most products fail, and it's because they don't actually talk to the clients. They don't translate that out. There's a question or a statement in the thing over here where it says, build a roadmap for a non-tech conversation. When you come in as a product owner or product manager, first you're met with engineering. Here are their priorities. Then I've got a roadmap for business. I got a roadmap for engineering. You start to align those together until you get to the point that you have a roadmap that actually conveys the business goals that you're trying to solve. Not everybody gets to that point as a product.
Sure.
I would argue that a product like AlertOps, extremely important, is not designed with the end user in mind. It's designed to create better operational efficiencies. And I had a product that's similar. That's the product I own. And it's extremely important, but it's very different when it comes to that. Sorry, and I don't mean to Uber challenge you. It's just
no, you already are. Good. And I'm going to re-challenge that because yes, you can try to put it into a bucket, like you said, AlertOps, right? Which I don't disagree with what they're doing. However, if you have operational efficiency in this case, at the end, that byproduct is clients should win. They should do better, right? We won't talk about failing products because you're absolutely right. There are products that fail that never really. I've worked with plenty of engineers that put widgets and gadgets on things. They're like, look at this cool widget. And I'm like, well, what's it do? It's just a cool widget. For what purpose, right? And I've had those conversations many times. So I get that. And then it's also the integration conversation. Does your product integrate into this? And it's like, why? Well, just because there should be integrations. Well, yeah, but what's the use case, right? So those things occur. But when you look at AlertOps or you look at your competitors, right? They build a product with the end user in mind. And Adam, you said what end user? It doesn't matter. End user is subjective to whoever's talking, right? So in this case, MSP being the end user is the end user, or is it that? And I'll challenge Callan because he won't be able to argue this either because he's built channel programs. We always constantly talk about selling to and selling through, right? There's two different options and there's a collaborative option. In that case, end users are everybody.
But so, I think that's it. When you look at it, is a differentiator for us because we built it with the end customer in mind. How do you get those conversations through to the end customer? And that's who we need to appeal to. And in the MSP industry, we often mistake the importance of appealing to that end customer, because we try so hard to appeal to the users, which are often MSPs. And the user, and it's a difficult thing to balance. I think Adam's done a tremendous job in learning the product that it appeals to both, because the end product that's being delivered is a conversation. It's driving an action by the end customer, which is to be satisfied and buy more stuff, which is huge.
Yeah, let me simplify that a little bit. So the recent dev process we went through, we built a budget dashboard. Now, my MBA experience says I need to create a P&L dashboard that does VARX and fixed expenditures and OPEX and divides them up into a dashboard so we can make accurate decisions. However, I gotta balance two people in mind: the end user, the customer, and I gotta build in the MSP. This is the complication of Humanize It, is that I'm trying to balance these two people's conversations because the account manager has zero financial background. They might have gotten lucky. You might have gotten somebody from an accounting background or something like that, but that's if you're lucky. And then you've got the end client who's got a MBA or is a CFO, and they understand this stuff really well. How do you create a tool that both of them can understand so they can meet in the middle and discuss budget analysis? And so like the tool we just released last week is this mapping of taking OPEX in showing the flow over time in a way that the account manager who understands depreciation And now the CFO who, oh, depreciation, I get that. It's not a life cycle. It's not an asset life cycle. It is a depreciation cycle. Now both of them are on the same page, and they can say, do you want to go out to 6 years? Do you want to go out to 3 years? And see how that changes the finance by making that decision. And then it's on the account manager to say, oh, if you go out farther, yes, it's going to make things cheaper, but it's going to increase your risk. So to match with that, we're going to add on an increased service package. So if the computers do break, which they have a higher likelihood of doing now, that we've got this other package to cover for it. And so then now the account manager is having a conversation, and knowing that the supply chain still sucks, let's go ahead and bump that out a year, and let's sell you on a higher tier package for service. Now you just had a conversation that solved two problems. One, the MSP is making more money because they just sold another service package rather than hardware, because hardware margins suck. And then two, the client's happy because their cost per device just went down over a year, and they're going to get better service. That's a budget tool, but I had to target two separate problems and sit there and talk to my developers and talk to my internal teams about how do you solve this and meet in the middle? What does that tool look like? Sorry.
I appreciate all that, considering I appreciate all that, especially being with a sales, marketing, and communication background, which we know is one of the biggest problems. I think the communication gap is the biggest problem for all people that do this. Take away processes and everything else is irrelevant. Even I sat at an ASCII conference, and we're almost top of the hour, so I'll make this brief. I was at the ASCII conference in New Jersey last year, and I'm a huge Lawrence Taylor fan. He happened to be not at the conference, but at the same hotel. We're sitting there smoking. I'm smoking a cigar with Lawrence Taylor, so it's like man crush, right? And all these MSPs are on one side. They come over, they sit down, start talking to us, and Lawrence Taylor says, "What are you guys all doing here? You all work for the same company?" And they're like, "No, we're for a conference." He's like, "Oh, what do you all do?" So there's 20 MSPs sitting there. I don't say a word. 10 minutes later, after they finished talking, Lawrence Taylor was like, "What did you just say you do? Like, what happened?" And the one guy that's not MSP goes, "They fix computers for businesses." He's like, "Why don't you just say that?" Like, yeah. So there's that. So I think it comes down to, if you can tell them how to say certain things, and then you can tell them how to do it in a constructive storytelling manner that was relatable. And, we've gone away from the trusted advisor to more of the business partner concept now, because MSP should treat themselves like they are the IT. If they were working for the company full time, they would be the IT director or the CTO or CIO, whatever it may be, right? That's what they would be. So when they would come into these meetings, they'd be boardroom meetings, right? They would be discussing, this is what we need to do. This is why. This is what it does with the budget. This is the things that have to happen for the next 2 years, whether it's hardware, software, whatever. That's how the conversations will go, right? So it's not being an advisor. It's about being a partner, being part of the board members, a stakeholder.
And to end, I'm gonna hit this right in the head, because you're nailing it there. Is that the problem is, in the MSPs, they don't know how to have those conversations, because they've been talking in their own context of an MSP with highly technical people in their bubble their entire careers. And then you walk into this business and you think that they're going to care about all the things that your peers do, and they don't. They care about running their company and generating profits. And if you aren't solving those problems for them, then you're just going to be a janitor. They're going to go low cost, because everybody's doing the same thing at that point. You're just fixing computers. But if you solve problems, if you solve problems, that's how you get to a C-level. I've been on the C-level table for the past 15 years. We don't talk about firewalls. We talk about profit analysis. We talk about new business strategy and what's coming up. And I, as a technical person, am supposed to represent the entire technical portfolio, from developers all the way to engineers, on how we're going to solve our piece of this business's goal for 2023. That is what a CFO does. That is what a director does. And if you walk in there talking about firewalls and tickets and PCs, you are just an engineer. You're just a technician, and you are a low-cost person then.
And that's the framework that Humanize IT is going to help people to wrap their heads around, so they can communicate that to the end user. Awesome way to end. I love it. Adam, Callan, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to throw this up on the screen one more time. We are talking with one of the finalists for PitchIT. They're going to be presenting at IT Nation Connect in Orlando in about 2 weeks. Get your tickets. Sean, are there still tickets? I'm assuming if I keep saying get your tickets that there's
Yes,
still a few tickets remaining. Okay.
there are tickets. I will say this is the largest crowd we'll ever have at IT Nation Connect. I'm not sure what the final count will be, but I know we've already well surpassed what we thought. We're going to need a bigger place next year, maybe. I mean, seriously, we are. So, yeah, the competition, just so everybody knows, will be on it will be on November 9th, 3 p.m. Eastern, 3 to 4. But also, these guys, the finalists, all also are putting a pre-day workshop on that same day. So if you're around at IT Nation Connect on the 9th, 8:30 a.m., there is a pre-day workshop being hosted by the 3 finalists. So I think it'd be, if you want to
Best workshop you'll ever go to, I promise.
And there it is, coming from the guy that said he's going to win the whole competition too. So he knows it all at this point. He's ready to go. So you kind of have to believe him.
It's a 3-for-1 4 hours, 3 products, and you will have the best MSP coming out of it.
I love it. I love it. I love the trash talking. I love the up leveling of the whole industry. I appreciate ConnectWise for throwing some money at this in order to help MSPs and TSPs excel and just become better at what they do. So, gentlemen, thank you all for your time today, and I will see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you
you all.